Hello and welcome back to the Undercut podcast. It is time to preview the ninth race of the year, the British Grand Prix. I'm your host, Jesse Billington, and joining me once again is none other than Mr. Thiemo Albers-Daly. How are you?
Somewhat reassured by the numbering now. I think from this point on, if the numbers feel appropriate to the Grand Prix run, we've got past that point of the season now. It seems to have just balanced out a bit now, which probably means that something else is going to happen to throw us off kilter again. But other than that, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I'm looking forward to this weekend. I think, yeah, also sort of back in the swing of things when it comes to Formula One. It's all sort of back on track where it's supposed to be, and looking forward to what should be a very fun sort of weekend away. I think we can both sort of announce that I think we're both heading to Silverstone this weekend. I'm correct in saying?
You are certainly. I'm not.
Oh, you're not. Okay.
I'm there in spirit, and I hope that that helps push all of the British drivers forward as much as possible. Maybe not to the extent of Albon nearly lapping Alonso kind of forwards, but forwards enough to make it interesting nonetheless.
I just
Give
assumed
that
that the
kind of
fact,
momentum to Behrman.
yeah, I just assumed that the fact that we're recording the preview to the British Grand Prix podcast on the Tuesday afternoon as opposed to our usual time, it suggested that you were sort of in motion or going to be unavailable for the rest of the sort of the week because you were there. But no.
July 4th celebrations for America's 250th start early. It's not just a weekend thing. You've got a lot of build up. I'm surprised
Yeah.
that's not what you're doing, really.
Oh, you're going to be one of the maybe 12 people that are at the what is it, the States Fair thing that's going off in Washington at the moment
I'm one
with
of the main attractions.
that genuinely wouldn't surprise me considering what I've seen so far.
The
Yeah,
money's there, and they need people.
yeah, very true. Um, anyway, with that out the
You're trying
way,
to find a segment.
yeah, I genuinely can't. I've seen so many hilarious photographs of it. Like, there's a great shot of one of the live music acts on stage. They've zoomed in on the guitarist's sunglasses to reveal that there is 8 people stood there watching. Um,
Oh,
it's
bless.
it's dire. Hopefully, there'll be more people attending the 250th anniversary celebration IndyCar race later this year, but we'll see when we get to that.
Definitely just at least with the teams alone. Never mind if you're actually turned up to watch it.
Yeah, we'll see how that pans out. But anyway, more importantly, it is the weekend of the British Grand Prix. It looms ahead of us. I'm going to be there. It's looking to be a great one. The weather's set to be fantastic. I'm very excited, but there is some news to get through first. And we'll kick off with the fact that Williams have a British Grand Prix special livery.
Have you seen it?
Yes, it's just some scribbly bits on the side of the nose.
Yeah, so you really, really need to look very closely to be able to actually spot the difference, really, because casual viewers will know what the car looks like. And then when you have a so-called special livery, you will immediately notice the difference because you go, ooh, that's horrific. Horrific. You look at the Aston Martins, one from Monaco, or a lot of the Racing Force stuff from recently. Great on-track stuff, but their special liveries have not been there really at all, have they? At least for me. Whereas you look at this and you go, where? And then you just zoom in, and it's these tiny, tiny little bits that you go, I don't know if that counts. That's just what McLaren do every weekend when they've got a new sponsor.
Just call it a new livery. It's yeah. I
Alex Albon's special helmet had more of a difference to it for Spain than the entire car's got.
yeah, it's a really interesting one, and
He says trying to find something polite to say
there's
about it.
nothing to say about it. It looks like the regular car. It's got some scribbly bits on the side of the nose that you won't even see on the camera. They're so fine. It's a bit pants. Arvid Lindblad has got a special helmet for this weekend, which looks quite nice. I think
Mm,
it's been done by an Indian artist. It's fun. It's funky. It's fresh. It's what we want to
you
see.
can you can tell it's different,
Yeah,
crucially.
and it's yeah. The effort's gone in with him. I think, and it's uh, I'm just
You
underwhelmed
can
by it.
move on. There
We
is
will
there is
move
not
on.
much to say about it, and you don't have to try and find something positive to say about it.
We'll move on. I'll try and refocus. I've got a lot to try and get through in like the 2 days of this week that I'm actually working before. Literally, I've got to be on site for tomorrow. But anyway, it's British Drivers Galore at Silverstone this weekend. We're looking forward to it. 5 British drivers in Formula One this season, obviously. But then when it comes to Formula Two, we've got two there. Surprisingly, one in Formula Three and five in
Yeah, I thought
F1
there'd be
Academy.
more in. in F3. And then I was thinking, Freddie Slater's the headline, but then you think, well, there's going to be a couple of other ones surely somewhere. And no,
No,
it's not.
but
So
F1 Academy is
no
sort of,
pressure on him this weekend to bring it home for us in F3. He's not won a race yet so far this season, so this would be the perfect point for him to do it, either in the sprint or the feature or both. I don't think anyone would complain too much, except maybe Hugo.
hmm, we'll see how that one pans out. But yeah, I mean F1 Academy flying the flag for Britain really with just as many drivers in that as there are in F1. If anything, because there's less drivers in that series, we've got a higher dominance percentage there, which is good to see.
Yeah, we've got about almost a third of the field, I think, to ourselves, and we've got two drivers in the top three, I think, at the moment. So that's not too bad for us. So again, no pressure, but if they don't do well, the top couple, we've got three spares that can hopefully also have a good weekend. So I like the numbers game for us.
Yeah, in this house, we believe in Alicia Palmowski dominance and looking forward to
Hmm.
hopefully seeing a good spread of that this weekend coming. But importantly, the final sort of lump of news to get through before we get into a preview of the British Grand Prix is Aston Martin's fundamental problems.
I don't know if you saw this yet. This was this morning. I think it came out. Adrian Newey having an in-depth interview that people have been taking bits and pieces from, but just shows the extent of the issues, let's say, at the team. Highlights being they found some of the systems that have been pushed and batched up since the Jordan days of the team, which yikes. They didn't actually have a proper go of things with the car until FP3 in Australia, bearing in mind all the testing and everything that was going on in Spain beforehand. Um, and they didn't actually start proper work on the car until I think March last year, which meant that Adrian Newey couldn't do his usual Adrian Newey thing because he didn't have enough data to work off and was kind of having to go on the fly, which, as it turns out, hasn't worked that well. Spoilers if you have been living under a rock and not watching Aston Martin's performance this season. But I appreciate the honesty, and it's very interesting reading. And they do have some hope. I'm not quite sure what that hope is for the upgrades they're bringing in Hungary. I find it a little bit funny that they bring it before the last race before the summer break. And then they hope that they can do something in the second half of the season. If they do manage to do anything positive in the second half of the season, it'll be a very unique style comeback. But just having a read through before the podcast going, we knew it was bad, but ooh, that's some rough reading right there. Especially with the amount of money, right, that's been invested in that team. You'd think, how have they been spending that? They've got the new campus, we've got some nice shiny things, but you didn't think to update your systems from 1991. That's a bit of an issue right there before we even get to anything else.
Yeah, it's a there's so many sort of flaws in the Aston Martin plan at the moment, and what I meant we mentioned in the review from Austria that I think that Williams have potentially developed their way down the wrong pathway. I
I don't know how
it's
you
I can't
describe Aston Martin in comparison.
well yeah I don't even know what Aston Martin have developed, picked, strategized, or sort of aimed for with their pattern and pathway. They've just been so absent
I
from
think that's the thing, they haven't even got to that
everything.
point yet.
Yeah,
They've
it's
still got what feels like the initial ideas, and they're waiting for some results to come back, and so they're kind of stuck in this awkward no man's land in a way. But the no man's land is it's not McLaren style no man's land of we're not going to win the championship, but at least we're not going to fall into the midfield. It's Cadillac might get us, and they've been at this for what will be this weekend 9 races.
mm, it's I'm pretty sort of baffled by what Aston Martin seem to think they're doing.
It's
And
impressive.
yeah, it there's there's just no plan or
In an
strategy
episode where
to
you're already struggling to articulate yourself, it doesn't help.
yeah, there's no sort of long-term strategy that I'm seeing come out of Aston Martin. There's no sort of step forward of leadership. They've had sort of this change of principle and change of sort of people at the top so often through this season, and it's not resulted in anything positive from them, and it's just dragging out what's already proving to be a dire year. And I can't see them sort of getting any significant results from this. It's just going to sort of be a constant sort of tit for tat against their own bad luck and unreliability in a car that's so desperately uncompetitive. I I haven't figured out what they're up to. I just can't put my finger on it.
If it helps, I don't think they have either. Um, I have the interesting task this season of writing at least once about every team and hopefully every driver. And I get the feeling that Aston Martin and particularly Lance Stroll are going to be towards the tail end because I just don't know what to write. I always try and find some kind of, I don't want to be negative about any of them. I always want to try and find some kind of way to spin it out. So I had this with Albon and the Williams article recently. You go, the, they clearly trust each other. There's a relationship there, the longevity aspect to it. It's not where they want to be, but they at least realize that the driver isn't the problem. You need that continuity throughout all of the difficult periods, and he can perform with bad machinery. We've seen that before. But then you look at Aston Martin, you go, where did you start? Where is the silver lining with all of this? As we said after Austria as well, and as I referred to earlier, Albon nearly lapped him one position ahead of him. Alonso, this is on the race, and you go, that's tricky to spin in PR. And I do semi admire slash pity their PR people at the moment for having to find ways to either distract or address this in some way that makes it look good. Because I don't know what that is, and I will be studying that to go, well, if that can be put in a positive light, then there is hope for other things further down the line that I hopefully never have to deal with, but at least there's potentially options then. But oof, looking forward to writing that piece in say December when I hopefully have something something good to show for Aston Martin.
Yeah, it's there's there's something key missing from both the design of that car, the way the team are working, and the communication, the feedback that's coming from the drivers. And Alonso is usually pretty good at this because he's able to communicate and talk and sort of have those conversations with his engineers and with the mechanics around him and sort of explain that. We've seen him sort of rectify problems at Renault, at sort of Alpine previously, even at Ferrari when they had bad cars. He was able to sort of find setups that worked and sort of get bits that sort of played to their advantages. But it's just a case of at the moment we're not seeing him able to communicate that and drive the car forward, and we've not seen the results of the car change or the car on track change to suggest that what he's saying is being listened to. And bear in mind how long Adrian Newey has been going on about really wanting to work with either Alonso or Hamilton, which suggests that he's open to listening to what the driver has to say and incorporating that feedback. So either Alonso is talking to Newey, but Newey is being hamstrung by the operations at Aston Martin,
That's
or
what the interview kind of gives the impression of. It's that it's not the fault of the people working at the team. It's just the underlying operational procedures that they have just aren't working at all, and that just then cascades in every single direction and leads to the situation we've got. But without that being the sole issue, there are other things on top of that. So he very may well be working, night and day with Alonso and trying to figure it out. But then it's just getting what they're working on out to the masses, as it were, and it's just not communicating. The only thing I can think of, you asking just now what their plan is, the only thing I can think of is that in the summer break, there is one key narrative that they are then looking to replicate, and that is they take Lance Stroll out, they put Sonny Hayes in, and they have an Apex GP style second half of the season where that's the only kind of similarity I can draw at the moment. It's this team that is just absolutely nowhere, and then they just aim for incremental things in a Hollywood style fashion because I don't know what else they could be purposely doing otherwise if we are going to go down that particular fairy tale route. And also, if they did that, not saying they get Brad Pitt in the car, but let's just DC, for argument's sake, the equivalent of real life. That would be a hell of a storyline. Not going to happen, but fun to think about instead of the reality of Aston Martin at the moment.
I I don't think it's Alonso's communication to the team that's the problem. And what
Oh no, I don't think so.
you said about the problem of there's something at Aston Martin where the communication is probably happening between Alonso and Newey. That's what we
Hmm.
expect. But is Newey allowed to implement what Alonso is saying to him? Is the problem that maybe there is the other driver to consider in this? It's sort of the inverse of the Red Bull problem, where the car was always tailored to Max.
I mean, that would be a very interesting chapter to read in Quickest Way to Lose a Shit Ton of Money.
Yeah, I mean, famously,
Insert author here.
the quickest way to make a small fortune in motorsport is start with a big one, and that very much seems to be sort
Hmm.
of Lawrence Stroll's modus operandi. And yeah, I don't know what.
It's baffling. So it's fascinating reading and doesn't necessarily throw up any surprises in a positive sense. It just sort of reiterates what we've been talking about all season and then somehow makes it worse, which you go, oh, we didn't need worse on top of that. We knew it was bad. We wanted, again, something positive out of it. And the only positive thing I can take from it is that he's taken a leaf out of James Albert and gone, I'll just be honest about it at least.
Hmm, they've yeah, the honesty is good, but it'd be nice to see some more honesty and a bit more in depth from it. And yeah,
Yeah, he's if we're getting an interview with him, we'd like an honest interview with Lawrence to see from his perspective, because there's no way that he can answer things by going, everything is going perfectly fine,
yeah,
or paper over the cracks. It's very
I'd
much
like
the scene from Naked Gun where he's standing in front of the fireworks shop with all the fireworks going off in the background,
nothing
going,
to
"There's
see here.
nothing to see here."
Please disperse. Yeah, I'd like a really in-depth interview with Lawrence Stroll to try and find out what the hell is happening at the moment, because this is his money that's obviously being spent and he's not seeing any results from it. And eventually there's going to have to, we've said this before, there's going to have to come a time where they do something about the fact that this is a team that's fighting with one hand behind its back when you look at the driver lineup. And this year is possibly the greatest example of that, because we're not getting the driver feedback, we're not getting the car development, we're not understanding what it's doing from weekend to weekend, and we're not we're not seeing that sort of positive outcome.
Do you
And
want to know something interesting? I'm just looking at their results since they came into F1 as Aston Martin, going off what we were talking about in our Austria review about Racing Bulls having their first ever back to back to back to back to back points finishes, 3 races in a row.
yep,
Aston Martin had a double occasion of that, so 2 races in a row, double points, once last year, and then at the tail end of what has been their best season in Formula One so far, 2023, they got 3 races in a row, the last three. But prior to that, only once before in the same year had they had double point finishes, or twice, sorry, in the same year did they have back to back double points finishes. Everything else has been one driver DNFing, retiring, or just outside of the points. And for the amount of money that they're putting into that team, that is incredible.
yeah. And would you like to take a guess as to the highest championship finishing position Lance Stroll has ever seen?
Ever. Jeez.
Been in the sport since
14th?
no 10th,
I wasn't sure if he'd ever got to the lofty. I imagine that was what, 2020?
2023.
No, begin. Yeah, they had this great year, weirdly, in 23, kind of out of nowhere. It wasn't the start of regulation set, and then it only lasted for half a season, but they just banked all the points early.
Yeah, when you look at
And
2023, he was pretty sort of a bang average all through it, but the car was very much under him, because you look at what Alonso was doing, third place three
mm,
times in a row in the opening race of
podiums.
the season, fourth, third, second, seventh, second, fifth, seventh, ninth, fifth. That was a year that Alonso managed to finish fourth in the driver's title, and his teammate was only able to finish 10th.
We haven't seen that kind of a drop off since, well, okay, last year because Beauty and Max, but before then, it's been quite a while since, you have a car of that kind of caliber. As much as we berate McLaren for various things last year, at least Oscar was still third.
Mm.
You know, he wasn't just he didn't drop off to the extent that he was just on the fringes of the top 10. Even Lewis at his worst was still firmly inside the top 10. Um, and for a team that we're saying is, fighting for podiums, potentially for race wins during that season, even though it never happened for them, there is just such. I mean, it's not a secret, but there is just such a vast difference between whoever is in Alonso's seat and Stroll.
Yeah, it's such an awkward split between the drivers, and it must be awkward in the factory when you sort of look at who's putting in the performances, who's making the differences, and you've just got some
Because
drivers that
again, credit where it's
are,
due, ish. He's Stroll. He isn't so bad a driver that he can't even finish a race. He's not Mazepin.
yeah,
He knows enough of everything, but just makes me think of he would be much better suited and potentially happier as a test and reserve driver, and good for development. He's been in the sport for over a decade. He's going to have some knowledge, you know. But if you want to make money, if you want to have the results, he's not the driver to do it. He got a pole position when they copied a Mercedes in 2020, and he's gotten a couple of podiums in arguably two of the crazier races that we've had in the last decade. That's it. That's the highlights. And you give him a car like you say in 2023, you want at least a podium.
yeah,
When Alonso's there left, right, and centre, it's still not going to be easy because of the competition that there was that year and Red Bull's dominance. But yeah, interesting reading though, and thankfully gave us a bit more meat for the podcast this time.
yeah, because obviously we've recorded this so quickly after our review from Austria. It's very tricky to have anything to say with sort of less than 24 hours to pick up some news. But yeah, the Aston Martin debacle is going to be an interesting one. And you look at sort of fan bases and sort of support at races, and you can understand that people are fans of Aston Martin because they're fans of Alonso and they want to see him out there
And
doing
the
well,
brand of Aston Martin,
and they love
it's
the brand of
obviously
Aston Martin, yeah.
mm,
But I don't think I've ever seen anyone wearing a Lance Stroll cap. But
no,
no.
no. I do want to buy one for people just who have no idea about the context and then watch as they get points at and laughed in public, but that's a separate thing.
Hmm. It's one of those things that just sort of you're left sitting there looking at it going, why? What is he
I
what
respect
is
your
he
opinion, but I
doing?
want to understand. I
Yeah.
really want to understand.
I'd love to pick apart why he's still in that team because there is the obvious why he's still in that team, but
Yes.
Aston Martin
But what is
has
the
a
reason they're telling everyone?
yeah,
Because they obviously can't say the obvious reason.
yeah, because they have a junior driver academy. They're supporting younger
Mm,
drivers through the field, and there has been some incredible talent emerge from Formula 2 and Formula 3 associated with them as a manufacturer. I mean, where's Felipe Drugovich these days? What's going to happen
mm.
to, is it not Pepe Marti? Who's the one they've got in at
Mary
the minute?
Boyer.
Mary Boyer. Yeah. What's going to happen to all these drivers? They can't all just be reserve and test drivers because you're not willing to move on from the fact that you've got one teammate that's being consistently outperformed by the other. Just because his name's sort of surname is the same as the guy who runs the place. It's baffling and quite disheartening at times as well when you look at the talent that's coming through and Aston Martin just sort of steadfastly refusing to not hire them and then refuses to listen to the talent they do hire. They make this big deal of sort of signing Alonso on multi-year contracts and bringing in Adrian Newey, who's enthused to be working with Fernando Alonso, but then never actually letting the pair do anything interesting.
Mm.
What I said it last on the last episode. What is the point of you even being here if you're not actually going to be actively competitive?
It's the same with some of their ambassadors as well. We saw Jensen jump ship from Williams to Aston Martin, and it was a bit baffling because you go, well, he's got the history with Williams, so it made sense why he's there. But why are you at Aston Martin? And don't you go, well, there's the obvious reason. You go, yeah, but surely there's got to be more to it than that. That's not how. What is he in an ambassador role going to do for them? That's going to bring in more money than they're probably having to spend on having him there in the first place. It's it's very curious. I'd love to be a fly on the wall at points and see some of the decisions being made in real time.
It you just sort of have to really question sort of what is going on there because I just
We
don't.
are all the cat in dungarees looking over there, going, "What is going on over there?"
Yeah, it's astonishing, really, that they've been able to build such a bad car, refuse to upgrade it, refuse to listen to the people who know what's supposed to be done to try and make this feel better. And then every weekend, it must be a nightmare to be sort of like part of the team management to rock up and try and have to motivate the squad to do something each weekend. Because what are you motivating them to do? Finish 21st and 22nd at best. Like so far they've lucked into not finishing plumb last or 20th, first and 22nd because people have retired. We haven't had a
Hmm.
single race this season, I don't think, where we've had all the cars finish. Let me just check. Retirements
I
last
don't
weekend,
think
time
so.
Barcelona, Monaco. Even the Canadian sprint race, we had retirements, Miami sprint retirements. We have not had a race where someone could finish 21st and 22nd. And the moment we do,
Yeah, it's not going to be Cadillac.
it's them or Cadillac. And to be fair, Cadillac haven't finished 21st and 22nd because they've also got reliability issues, but they haven't been in the sport as an outfit
Hmm.
since the 90s.
Which is the last time that Aston Martin updated a lot of their internal procedures and technology. So, it
I
all
mean,
comes full circle.
we thought Williams were bad running their entire stockroom on one single Excel spreadsheet, but I mean, Aston Martin do better. Anyway, with the news and a bit of a whinge and a moan out the way, we'll get into some predictions and we'll start with a pole position prediction, please, Thiemo.
British Grand Prix, I've got to give him something. So, Lewis Hamilton, pole position number 107.
Yeah, that's a. I'd like to see it. I
I
might
mean,
see it.
again, it's the crowd that gives them all the energy. We always have this, and the Ferrari's got pace, whole lap. It would be fun. It would be fun.
Hmm. I really want to see Lewis do it, but also off the back of a Russell revival in Styria, I would like to see
Mm,
George Russell have a good weekend. And again, I like the idea of home hero, home race, all that sort of jazz. I think it would be really quite something to see George Russell sort of getting pole. We'll start there at his
yes.
home Grand Prix. When it comes to the podium, I believe we're both after exactly the same
I
thing,
am I'm
realistically.
thinking on the same track as you here. We had Lewis with his British Grand Prix win in 24, which kind of came out of nowhere, ended his drought. It was perfect. We had Norris last year in a year that you'd argue was his best opportunity to do it to date. And for him, obviously, very happy to achieve that. It's George's turn. He's been in the sport long enough. He's winning races, but he wants to win the British Grand Prix. He's got the car to do it now for the first time, I feel like, not just to luck into it if there's bad weather or just a crazy race. He's got the car in all conditions so far that we've seen, because we haven't had a wet race yet, to do it. So, yeah, George for the win, Lewis in a very close second. And then just because he seems to do this occasionally at the moment, Oscar Piastri gets another podium, sticks it in third.
Yeah, that'd be quite fun to see Oscar Piastri just with that consistency every weekend of just sort of being up there,
Hmm.
bubbling away in that sort of top
No one has
six
any idea how
driving.
he gets there, him included. He just is on the podium going, sweet.
Sweet, another hat to add to the collection, another big sort of shiny lump of something to show off with. It's yeah, exciting. For me, I as much as I'd like to see Lewis winning his home race
Again.
in red, it I kind of want to see George Russell winning his home race.
Mm.
I just
I
think
would
that would.
split, but I'm just thinking Lewis after this last one, he's going to be around for a couple more years. He's got another opportunity, at least to give it to George in case everyone else catches up next year.
Did Mansell ever win with Ferrari at Silverstone?
I don't think so.
Let's have a quick check.
One with Williams, I'm sure, but I don't think with Ferrari.
So 92, that was Williams, Ferrari. No, retired, podiumed at the British Grand Prix with Ferrari. No, he didn't win the British Grand Prix with Ferrari. He only ever came second or retired in 89 and 90. So, hmm,
Lewis would be the first British Ferrari driver since, I want to say.
who
So
preceded Mansell as a British Ferrari driver?
I'm saying since Mansell, not before.
Since certainly, but I don't know who the one before him would have been. Maybe sort of. Ooh,
Like Hawthorne, maybe.
yeah, we're going all the way back to like your Hawthorns, Tony Brooks, Surtees. Surtees is always an
Mm.
easy one to forget there. Did Surtees ever win the British Grand Prix while driving for Ferrari? Let's check it again. John Surtees into the archives. Race results. Formula One with Ferrari. Podiumed at the British Grand Prix in 65, podiumed at the British Grand Prix in 63, podiumed at it in 64. Nope, didn't do any more races with Ferrari. So nope, he might be the first British driver after like Tony Brooks or something to um
Knowing Lewis, I mean, even if he waits a year, that's still going to be one of his sort of silly records to break or to continue on. And you go, yeah, of course, he's somehow managed to be the first driver since 1950 something to win with Ferrari at Silverstone.
hmm, it's gonna be
We'll
really
have George first.
yeah, we'll see how it goes. Um I think with so where were we? We were on podiums. So you've given me your podium. I'm joining you with sort of first and second, Russell and Lewis. And then third, I can see Charles getting back onto form. I think it's a circuit that might suit the
He needs a
Ferrari
good
quite
weekend.
nicely. And he goes all right round Silverstone.
Hmm.
And also it's a circuit that he can easily build up a rhythm on. However, sprint race weekend, very tricky to
Yeah.
build up that rhythm. So swings and roundabouts, this is the sort of thing where Lewis and George, backed by the home crowd on their home territory, certainly a weekend we're getting up to speed very quickly, suits Lewis. It's going to be important. Equally, um, when you consider was Canada no, Canada wasn't a sprint race, was it? No, Canada was a sprint race.
Canada was a
Um,
sprint. Yeah, Canada and Miami.
Antonelli struggled there initially. Bear in mind, while he did win the
Hmm.
race, that was with Russell retiring from it.
Yeah.
Antonelli needs the full practice suite to sort of get up to
And it
speed.
took him a while to get up to speed in Miami as well. Um,
Yeah,
Even in the Grand Prix after the sprint, it still took him a minute to make his way up through the field when he had the botched start. So,
yeah.
potentially interesting Grand Prix coming up.
It could be enough just to hold him off and just sort of open up that chance for Charles to get back on the podium and rebuild his
Hmm.
pace. So again, I
It'd be
think
nice to have that gap as narrow as possible going into the summer break. We've got Spa and Hungary after this, and there's a 40-point gap at the moment between the two of them. Not much further back either to Lewis. Just get them to converge a little bit so that when you get to Zandvoort and Monza, you've got a really interesting um, time of it coming straight out the gates again.
hmm, it just sort of builds up his pattern, builds up his rhythm, and gives him a chance to sort of just clear his head going into that final part of the opening half of the season because it's then pretty flat out from there onwards. You want to be sort of
Hmm.
set and thinking clearly, which I think is something that Charles really benefits from. So we'll see how that works for him. Fastest lap, however, you have gone for the little Italian.
I'll give it. Yeah, I'll give it to Community. Like you say, he's not going to make the podium, but he's going to be running Roadrunner style to try and get there, and he's going to whack on some soft or just have some pace out of nowhere and just run out of time. Not quite get there, but he'll give it a go and give me a
Kimi
point for it.
Kimi's good at having a little bit of pace in the bag towards the end of a Grand Prix and putting on that pressure. I mean, look at how he was sort of able to go relatively untouched in Austria in those sort of final parts of the race. He was just
Mm.
sort of able to keep the pressure in there and keep sort of a
And got the
concise race
fastest lap
going.
there as well, I think.
Yeah.
So
So it's very much sort of his race style is still to have something left in the tank, which is really quite important. And I can see him coming away with fastest lap. For me, though, Max Verstappen, I think he's found a bit of confidence and a bit of pace in that Red Bull, even if it's not particularly elegant or gracious in how he has to do it. But he could sort of produce something a bit spicy this weekend. I don't think we're going to see him sort of scrapping from a long way back in the same way that we have done previously at British Grand Prix. But it's going to be an interesting one for Max to sort of fight back and work on. Just, yeah,
yeah, I'm just kind of agreeing with you.
just nodding in agreement. However, when it comes to our wild predictions, I think compared to last year, this would have been not too wild, but this year it's quite wild.
Yeah, double Williams points for me. I Yeah, I'm now thinking, do I spread that across at least one points finish in the sprint and one in the Grand Prix counts as a double points finish just because it's unlikely to happen in either? We'll see what the results are and argue the toss of the coin afterwards, I think. But yeah, double Williams points at the British Grand Prix weekend. Let's go with that.
Hmm,
You're
very.
trying third time lucky with your strategy here with Alpine. You're deciding to tangle with them again.
Yeah, I've previously tried sort of Colapinto scoring in a specific location. All I need him to do this time round is just outscore Gasly, or out. Actually, I might renose this to outpace Gasly. I don't. I
Because
don't.
knowing your luck, it'll be, he doesn't outscore it, it'll just be like they're 11th and 12th.
Yeah, out finishes Gasly because I know how Colapinto goes when he knows I've got a prediction weighing in on him. So that way he'll hopefully sort of give me some breathing room.
Watch them go out turn one, lap one now.
There is every chance. Um, but there we go. That is
That
our
wasn't
world
a crash, Joe. Watch it. Watch this.
four.
No, Franco.
I don't know how you'd outdo that Zhou Guan Yu crash. I barrel
For
roll
people
it
in the
into the
grandstand,
trash
definitely don't
cans.
want that to happen.
Yeah, thankfully I'm a couple of turns up from there. So unless he does it in front of me, sort of like a full Mad Max Fury Road
Just a freeze
witness,
frame moment. Oh no.
no, just sort of
Flashbacks to this moment less than a week earlier going, son of a bitch, he predicted it.
yeah,
Last thing you think of.
just sort of full chrome spray on the teeth. Witness me, and just
Hmm.
barrel rolls it into the loop. Um, Please don't do that, Colapinto. It looks like it'd be very expensive and uncomfortable for you as well. Um,
What a
anyway,
way to end the podcast, though.
yeah, what a way to end the podcast. That's all. I say it's all we've got time for. It's all we've got on this episode of the Undercut podcast. It's a pretty short one, and now someone wants to try and get in touch with me on my work computer. Could it wait? Hang on, I'm going to leave this in because it's
Wait,
funny.
wait a
Where's the
minute.
call coming from? Just going to mute that. There we go. Um, where was I? That was it. That's all we've got for this episode of the Undercut podcast. We'll be back soon to review the British Grand Prix. In the meantime, if people want more from you, Thiemo, where can you be found?
This week I have got my Win and Motorsports Spotlight June edition out on the Paddock Chronicle, and if you want anything else, on the curbs for everything else.
Hang on, let me just reply to this message so the person knows that I will phone them back because I'm technically not off the clock. Hopefully my editor doesn't listen to this. I don't think he does. In the meantime, if people want more from me, they can, as they may have predicted, read the latest issue of Classic Car Weekly or listen to the Classic Car Weekly podcast. More importantly, you can also find me on the internet as at Jesse on Cars on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And this weekend, you can find me at Silverstone. I'll be there bobbing around. I know Haschap's going to be there as well, friend of the show. So we're going to try and link up and sort of have a beer somewhere at great expense, no doubt. But it'll be well worth it because the weather is set to be very toasty. So if you do see me, wave, say hello. It'd be nice to see the maybe 12 people that listen to this show. Um, Otherwise, thank you very much for listening, and we will see you again very soon for a review of what should be an exciting sprint weekend at the British Grand Prix.